Good Friday morning. I'm WCIA 3 meteorologist Jacob Dickey in the Storm Center right now. We are covering some active severe weather early on this Friday morning. The time now is 1 a.m. Our plan is to do some TV coverage as well as coverage on our digital platforms now. We are live on CBS and as well as on digital platforms. Facebook Live, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, and you can also download the WCIA 3 weather app to get severe weather updates as well as follow our coverage. Now, what we're looking at is a line of severe storms now coming out of western Illinois right down Interstate 72, and that is approaching some of our western counties here. The warning will go for the next 45 minutes. That particular warning is going to be until 1:45 for parts of Cass and Morgan County. We can see the screen full there where those alerts are in place, and we're continuing to watch it. That's the only warning we have now, but there is a tornado watch that's in effect across parts of the area here. Back in control, if we can, let's go ahead and pull, we'll keep Max 2 up here. I'll show you that tornado watch, the counties that are included in this here. This tornado watch is for Cass, Menard, Morgan, Sangamon, Christian, Montgomery, and Macoupin County. You've been seeing that crawl on the bottom of your screen for a little while now. At about 11:30 or 12, we started to realize the situation was escalating just a little bit here, and that's why this tornado watch was issued. We have had already today, in fact, one tornado that touched down near Verdon, south of Springfield. That happened around the 8 o'clock hour. That was with separate storms. This particular line now does have our interest. We'll zoom in a little bit closely here and show you some of those areas that it's moving towards now. It's starting to get real close to the Illinois River here, and this line has had a history of some wind damage as well as some tornadoes in northeast Missouri. A number of tornado warnings have carried over into western Illinois. So far, the only issue is for Cass and Morgan counties right now, but as this line of storms continues to move off to the east, it's very plausible that downstream we may see that approach the I-55 corridor and continuing moving off to the east here. The storm itself is moving at a fairly impressive clip now. We've got it moving at about 55 miles an hour per the latest update from the National Weather Service. And just checking some of the new alerts coming in now. The warnings will continue for Cass and Morgan County until 1:45. The storm looks like we're looking at a 45-mile-an-hour range. So we'll go ahead and time this out here and show you what we expect with this particular bit here. And we're seeing that this line of storms is moving off to the east at 45. So let me draw out this cone here and show you real quick. That looks like the wrong feature I want to show. I'm going to show you the line here and give you an estimated time of arrival at about 45 miles an hour. This storm should be approaching Rushville very shortly here. The time now 1:02 in the morning. We'll have it at 1:08 in Rushville, 1:14 in Beardstown, 1:20 or so in Jacksonville. It'll carry off to the east, 1:43 in Ashland, 1:56 in Carlinville, and about 2 a.m. or so in Springfield. That's with an estimated speed of 40 to 45 miles an hour. While we're watching this here, again, just one severe thunderstorm warning in effect. The thing we'll have to watch, and if we can go ahead and bring me full screen here real fast, I want to point a few things out, and then we'll continue our coverage here. This line of storms, we've got to watch is some of these little kinks in the line here. The line here is very much perpendicular to Interstate 72. As it moves off to the east, there's a bit of a favorable environment here in west central Illinois, including Springfield, Jacksonville, Beardstown, Petersburg areas, for perhaps a tornado or two to form. We'll be looking for individual kinks in the line. There's also been some activity of rotation in Pike County, Missouri. That, if it continues, may be more of a Macoupin, Montgomery County issue. There's a lot of folks probably watching right now and wanting to know what's going on in the area. Again, we're here late at night, and that's traditionally what we do when there's severe weather. Area-wide, a lot of dry weather for Effingham, Mattoon, Charleston, Decatur, Danville. Some light showers, though, are north of Interstate 74 from Champaign to Bloomington, Gibson City up towards Piper City, and through Pontiac and parts of Iroquois County. Those won't be a concern for us tonight, but there is some light rain showers, maybe a rumble of thunder in a spot there. This is the line that we'll have to continue to watch, and we'll be watching it for the next couple of hours here. I'll go ahead and throw on Future Track and give you an idea of what we expect here. So as I pull that in here, you can see, and let me make sure I got the right one. The idea is that this batch of storms will continue to push through the east, and we'll have to keep an eye on it very closely. So that's the thought here as we continue to watch, as we may very well deal with the chance for some severe weather for a little while longer. Again, right now we're on TV, and I think we're going to stay here for another 5 minutes or so. We'll back and forth and keep an eye on it, but we'll stay on our digital platforms. That's the important thing to note, is you can watch us live on our digital streams on Facebook, on Twitter, on the WCIA 3 weather app, as this line of storms continues to move off to the east. We talk a lot about the wind and maybe even isolated tornado threat with this tornado watch that goes until 4 a.m. It could very well be extended a little bit to the east, but the general consensus is that by the time it gets to the I-57 corridor from Champaign down towards Mattoon, Charleston, even towards Danville and Effingham, this storm should be on a weakening trend. That's the thought right now that we have internally. But we'll continue to watch it here with some of that instability and slight wind shear in front. The concern right now for our friends in Taylorville, Springfield, Litchfield, Nokomis, towards Carlinville, Jacksonville, Beardstown, Virginia, Petersburg. Those areas right now appear to have the best chance for at least a tornado and some damaging winds over the next couple of hours. Regardless of the intensity of this line, I'd be remiss to mention that the flash flood watch will go through at least Saturday morning. That includes all of these counties in green, essentially everywhere in central Illinois, under the threat for some heavy rainfall through at least Saturday morning and likely moving forth beyond that. We've got a very wet and active forecast here in central Illinois for the next several days. Some areas of 3 to 6 inches of rain likely. Some of that may even happen tonight, according to the latest from the Weather Prediction Center, particularly north of Interstate 72. A lot of rain coming, and it's worth noting that this threat for severe weather can't be forgotten about, but we have to talk about the flooding threat as well. Again, right now we have no active tornado warnings, and I don't expect any immediately, but we're watching in particular. One spot that has my eye is just to the west of Beardstown, west of Meteorologist. If you're familiar with that area along the river, you'll notice that we do see a little bit of almost what looks like a kink, kind of east of Griggsville. And what I'll do is we will show you our velocity. And it's hard to see really much here, but there is a lot of wind on the leading edge of this. Sometimes we see a little spin up in the backside, and that may be what we have to watch here. It looked a little more impressive earlier. You can see here, this was at about 12:40 a.m. There was an active tornado warning earlier in Adams County, and that was with this little circulation here. It looks like it's weakened a bit, but that doesn't mean it will stay that way, and we will evaluate this entire line very closely. This part of the storm here is outside of our area. It's to the north and west of Beardstown. It'd be Schuyler County and McDonough County, north of Camden, south of Macomb. That does have my interest for a feature here, maybe with a chance moving forth, but you'll notice really I think the wind will be the threat that most folks see here. This areas of whites and greens and blues that are bright in nature, showing that there is a lot of wind in the atmosphere. Some of that may very well mix down, which is why we do have this severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Cass and Morgan County that goes until 1:45. Checking a little further down the line here, and I'll switch radars. We like to look at as many different angles, as many different views as possible, and that allows us to evaluate what is happening here. You can see that leading edge of wind now crossing the Illinois River, and there's nothing immediately that gives me the concern for a tornado in parts of Morgan County towards Scott County, even to the south in Greene and Jersey County. One spot we do have to watch, though, is a little further to the south and west here. This is Ellsbury, Missouri, and that's going to be west of Calhoun County. Downstream, this may have the chance to give us some problems, say, 2:30 or so in the region. So we'll continue to watch it and be watching here behind the scenes for a bit of a while longer. Again, the time now is 1:08 a.m. We're doing a little bit more of an extended TV cut-in here to give you some more information on this. And the reason for that is because of the history of what these storms have done and the tornado watch that came out awfully late here. Part of the issue is if storms are happening late and, the threat kind of materialized a bit late here, some folks may not have gotten the alert, the issue, the information about that tornado watch. So that's why we want to make sure folks maybe online or watching TV can see that there is an active line of storms that's coming through the area right now. I will show you the lightning real fast, and it's going to take me to adjust a little bit of a setting here. A lot of lightning with these storms. We do have quite a bit here. Here you can see the updated, all of those icons are showing lightning bolts in the area. The more lightning you see, generally the stronger storms are. And these are some strong to severe storms, of course, across the region, moving across the Illinois River now, west of Jacksonville and west of Beardstown. So we'll take another look here. And what I want to do is I want to pull up some of the warning data and show you what some of the text directly from the National Weather Service says. This is going to be for parts of Cass and Morgan County in particular. And the box will cover the screen a bit. You can see here the severe thunderstorm warning for Cass and Morgan County, as well as Schuyler and Scott counties to the west, goes until 1:45 a.m. The wind speed estimated at 60 miles per hour. There is a chance for maybe some small hail. That doesn't really seem to be a big issue, though. Primarily the wind threat is there. But you'll notice the wording, the tornado possible, with this severe thunderstorm warning. What that means is the National Weather Service is looking at this storm and evaluating that there is some wind shear and some areas of spin trying to develop. While not immediately likely, it's kind of the precursor to a tornado warning. It means they're watching it particularly closely here. You can think of it as if you've got kids at home and they get in trouble, you say, hey, knock it off, I'm watching you. The National Weather Service giving that same caution to these particular storms here with that threat for the tornado possible tag. It's something new that's recently happened over the past couple of years, and it's really beneficial to help identify storm threats more, kind of that middle ground. Severe thunderstorm warning, which we have now, severe thunderstorm warning with tornado possible tag. The next step then would be a tornado warning. So it's almost like a watch to a warning or a precursor issue there. So that's what we'll watch here for a little while longer. Again, watching this line of storms now, the line of storms moving to the east at about 40-45 miles an hour. And we think there'll be the chance for some new warnings to be issued. We'll have to watch again for some of these individual kinks along the line to see if they don't spin up a little bit more. But we'll watch here and keep you updated. The time now at 1:11, and I think we'll give it about another minute or so before we toss back to TV to your regularly scheduled programming. You can join in and let us know more here with the chance for these tornadoes, a bit of concern for the area. So that's what we're doing. Again, we take these threats seriously, especially with a history of wind damage, some significant wind damage in West Illinois and Northeast Missouri. A couple of confirmed tornadoes have come from there, from the region. So again, with the reliable severe weather alerts here, there's some options you have. TV, live streaming, we'll be there now and we'll be there continuously. Mobile devices and NOAA weather radios. This time of night, outdoor warning sirens, likely not meant to be heard indoors. So at least have the WCIA 3 weather app downloaded if there's an alert issued in your area. And I'll even throw this up here to give you an idea for more of those alerts. We frown upon outdoor warning sirens. Facebook and Twitter not reliable. They don't always keep you up to date. Really, on TV, the crawl will continue on the bottom of the screen. Our app will send you an alert. The NOAA weather radio does now work. If you live in DeWitt and McLean County, there's an update available on our website. You'll have to change your channel settings, though, to get weather alerts. And then we also expect for perhaps the wireless emergency alerts if needed here in central Illinois. The plan now at 1:12, we're going to wrap our coverage cut-in here on TV. We'll do another cut-in about 1:30, a little shorter in nature. And then from there, we'll do either every half an hour or so, but continue to stream on our digital platforms. That's really important for us here to stay up to date with this, again, with the severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag. Have to watch these storms since they do have a history of some wind damage, even a couple of tornadoes reported earlier tonight. I'm WCIA 3 meteorologist Jacob Dickey. Be sure and download the WCIA 3 weather app. Head on over to our digital platforms, the WCIA 3 weather and news apps, as well as Facebook and Twitter to continue our coverage, and we'll be there for the next bit. We'll have another update sometime on TV around 1:30 in the morning, if not a little bit before then. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. All right, we're back here on digital platforms only, and we're going to stay here for a while and talk behind the scenes. And what we may do is keep the radar up, mute it for a little while, but we want to watch these storms and particularly a bit closely here. So far, we do not have any tornado warnings in our area. I don't know if we'll make it through the night without one or two somewhere closer by, but there have been a number of tornado warnings in effect earlier tonight, and the concern has been with the atmosphere ahead of it. There's a bit of wind shear and there's a bit of instability in the atmosphere, and that can sometimes line up for parts of the region to allow for some ingredients to come together. Just got some information, some updates now coming in from Hannibal, Missouri. They're seeing multiple reports about trees down and telephones down, a lot of power lines down in that area. So some significant damage now coming from Hannibal, Missouri. That was from an earlier tornado warning. We're going to keep these updates on TV periodically through the night. The next TV cut-in will be at about 1:30 or so. And with these storms, the history of damage that they have, with the ingredients that are in place late tonight, we will do that. and continue to do that here. Other things we're watching, of course, is while we do talk about the threat for a tornado threat being there, the widespread wind threat can't be ignored with this particular line of storms here. Now crossing the Illinois River from about Illinois 67 west of Whitehall up towards Winchester, and then to the west of Jacksonville, and then again towards Beardstown. That line now moving on in. There'll be some 60 to 65 mile an hour wind damage in that area for the next little bit. And then once that line comes on through, we'll be done for just a little bit here in the region before we continue to see it move off to the east. So we're continuing to watch those reports. No structure damage out of Hannibal, Missouri. And but there's a lot of trees down, a lot of power line damage here. Our overall threat and impacts, this really is a broad brush for the region. And the reason we have that broad brush is because there's multiple chances for some severe weather, and those multiple rounds may come all the way through Monday morning here. We do expect Friday afternoon, that's this afternoon, we'll have another chance for some strong to severe storms. A couple of tornadoes may be possible with that, but certainly the wind threat, even the large hail threat, will be a concern. We again will watch for widespread heavy rainfall totals. That is a particular concern with this line of storms here as it moves off to the east, but also with multiple rounds coming on through. Our forecast has been calling for some areas to see 3 to 5 inches of rain with higher amounts expected. I very well expect to see some totals of 6 to 8 on the board before all is said and done. That's because some places today have already had those 3 to 5 inches of rain. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up some of those reports real quick to give you an idea of that. And I'm going to make sure I pull the right graphic. Here we go. This is some of the rainfall totals from the earlier round today. Farmer City pulled in 3.6 inches of rain. Weldon got 3.25. Villa Grove got 2.5 inches. Champaign pulled 1.25 inches. Some of those areas have already added more. That was with that round that came in this morning, afternoon. And so we'll continue to watch for more heavy rain. I fully expect that, you know, our forecast called for widespread 4 to 5. Well, we already have totals with round number 1, 2 to 3 plus. And so the heavy rain threat is there. That's why we do have that flash flood watch that is in effect. And it goes through at least Saturday morning. That's a concern, as not only do we have this round coming in now, but we also will have a round coming in Friday afternoon, potentially another one Friday night into Saturday morning, and then probably continuing to see more rounds beyond that. And that's the concern with this particular line in the region. So we're watching it. We do want to mention that flooding threat could be problematic beyond this, but the immediate concern now is with this tornado watch out until 4 a.m. for the counties in yellow. Those areas do have the chance to see a spin-up tornado or two, and maybe a little more than that. Wind damage also a concern, since we do have some severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect. You can see on our severe alerts graphics, notice some of those yellow polygons over by Morgan and Cass County. Those yellow polygons are severe thunderstorm warnings. We don't have any red boxes as of now. That would be a tornado warning. If that does happen, then we'll be doing live coverage on TV. But right now, it's primarily just this cut-ins back and forth because of the severe thunderstorm warnings with 60-mile-an-hour winds at least as a minimum, and a history of wind damage from northeast Missouri through Hannibal, Missouri, and points off to the east. We are getting some other reports of more wind damage coming out of northeast Missouri. Large trees down, house structure damage in that area from this line of storms, so a very damaging line of storms that is moving to the east here. I do expect, again, it's 119 now, I do anticipate at some point we'll see an extension of this warning, and we'll get an idea of what they are looking at here. That would be for eastern Cass, eastern Morgan, potentially parts of Macoupin County, even Sangamon, maybe Menard County next in line here. Right now, the National Weather Service is looking at the trends of the storm. They're evaluating things and taking a full look at what they expect and how things will move off to the east with this. And that very well is a possibility at this point, given the history of damage and the continued forward progress of this here. You'll notice that maybe the northern end doesn't look quite as impressive, especially over the last hour or so. So maybe the trend being our friend here, that's something we can hopefully continue. I'll go ahead and loop this for you, and let me press the right button here. I'll loop this for you for the last hour centered in that area, and you'll see A lot of those reds earlier on, they seem to have maybe weakened a little bit for parts of Cass and Morgan County. That's a good sign here. The other thing that may be happening, though, is as we get closer to the radar, we may not be getting as great of a view of it, but you see some of this surging here, still that bowing out a concern. And so I still think that we'll get some wind and some severe weather information to the east of this particular warning. And of course, we're watching this line of storms now. This is going to be green Jersey counties, Calhoun County here. You got Pike County, Illinois right here. As this batch moves to these Macoupin, Montgomery counties and perhaps a little bit further, will have to be watched. Hopefully, I say that, this line of storms will continue to weaken a bit and lessen in strength, but there still is some wind energy that is present with this line, and there still is some wind shear and some instability ahead of it. So at least for the next 60 miles, I think we'll have to watch it particularly closely here on our digital platforms with those TV cut-ins. In the back, I don't know if you have the ability, if we can pull that video at some point, and you just roll it whenever you get the chance, of that tornado that touched down near Verdon at about 8 o'clock. We know, based on what's already happened today with some of that instability in the atmosphere and some of that wind shear, this tornado touched down 5 miles west of Verdon on the Sangamon-Macoupin County line, south of Springfield. This was, again, about 8 p.m. earlier with storms that were well ahead of this line. But usually that's an indication that there's still some energy and some wind shear present in the atmosphere that is going to cause some issues. And so we'll watch it closely, and that's something we'll have to continue to monitor here for a little while longer. We did just get a new severe thunderstorm warning that came on in here, and this is going to be an extension, so we can pull the graphics back here. It just popped on in here for areas west of I-55. The good news at this point, in my mind, is while yes, there still is a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag for western Cass and Morgan counties, the new warning here does not have that tag in particular. The National Weather Service may be seeing that same trend we are, with a bit of a downward extent here. Not out of the woods, still some straight line winds expected, but at least the idea of a rotation being there, less of a concern at this point. Doesn't mean it stays that way. No, it doesn't. The trend is our friend, but it's not always right, and still we may see something spin up, which is why we do the extra time to stay behind the scenes, do our digital coverage, and keep you updated for these alerts and warnings here. So again, the new severe thunderstorm warning now does include areas west of I-55 and parts of Menard and Sangamon County. It's also going to include the rest of Cass and Morgan County here. And that's going to go all the way until 2:15 a.m. So at least another hour or so with these warnings here. And what I am going to do is going to get this warning text popped on in here, and I'm going to post to social. So you'll hear me talking a little bit behind the scenes before we're about 4 minutes away from our next cut-in at 1:23 now. We're about 7 minutes away, and so that's what we're continuing to watch and keep our eyes on. So that new severe thunderstorm warning, it will not include the city of Springfield. It will not include Illiopolis, Mechanicsburg, Sherman, Williamsville. It does not include Pawnee or Rochester. It is going to include areas west of Auburn, out towards the county line there. You'll see, let me get this alert brought on in here and getting some new information. That's the, let's see, that should be until 2:15 a.m. So it's 1:23 now. So I'm going to post this graphic on social real quick. You're hearing me clicking the keys and whatnot. We're doing a little one-man band. We've got Kevin and Jack behind the scenes watching, and Amelia will be in the morning show with the updates as well, with more rounds this week, rather, into the afternoon. All right, 1:23 a.m., new severe thunderstorm warning goes until 2:15 a.m. for parts of Cass, Morgan, Sangamon, and Menard counties. We're live on digital, monitoring the threat for wind and hail. A tornado watch continues for the area until 4 a.m. Okay, that's the 1:23. Let me make sure that's posted and got everything good. Okay, that's going out. So if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter, you'll see a new post just going out. That's what I was doing, a little multitasking behind the scenes. We just want to make sure we're getting information out. sometimes these storms are loud at night. And when they're loud at night and you wake up, you want to know what's going on. And at nighttime, we're a little more liberal with our ability to go on TV and watch these things here. In particular, we zoom in a little closer here. Here's the city of Auburn. There's New Berlin. Loami sits right here. This is the city of Springfield. Lake Springfield, Rochester, Sherman. Out to the west here, then New Berlin, Jacksonville, Nortonville. Will include also areas like Virginia over towards Petersburg, and points to the west here with this particular warning. So I'll zoom in a little closer here. Some of those towns in particular: Waverly, Louder, areas west of Auburn. The Curran in west on I-72, Farmingdale west, Ashland, Alexander, and Jacksonville. Nortonville as well, in parts of Cass County. All of Cass County, all of Morgan County under this warning. And that will continue until 2:15 for areas to the east. That western sliver of Sangamon County till 2:15. Also, the western sliver of Menard County will include Petersburg. It does include Lake Petersburg, Salisbury, Ashland, Oakford, areas south of the river there from Petersburg is under that warning. The storm's still a ways off to the west here, but we're seeing a couple of these linear complexes move on in here. In particular, I think honestly, the way things look now is there's a surge of air right here. You can see that curve motion, and that's going to be in southwestern Morgan County, approaching Murrayville, and approaching Highway 67 south of Jacksonville, approaching Illinois 267. This may have the better chance to see some wind damage south of Jacksonville here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull our Skycam up, and we can bring the graphics full. I think that's going to give us a good look at what we are expecting here. You see that surge, and we may get to see some lightning in that region. So I'm pulling that camera in now. And there it is. We'll see. This should be our Springfield camera. And that's looking off to the west now. You can see the Capitol. We may or may not see lightning off in the distance. It's still a ways away. And we'll just kind of depend and keep an eye on it. But at some point, we will be using this camera more and more as those storms do approach the the Springfield area. The other thing to notice is that we do still have some wind out there now. In fact, you can see that camera bouncing around. Some of our current winds showing up with a bit of a south and southwest wind here. Some spots are seeing those winds sustained of 10 to 20 miles an hour. They'll be stronger as that line rolls on through, and then behind the line they will weaken a little bit with some areas of rain moving on in. The thing to note here is the atmosphere is a bit unstable. It's not necessarily from the heat. Dew points are down into the 70s now, and that may keep us from a more widespread significant event, but our dew points are right there with it. We're a bit unstable because of the moisture in the air. Jacksonville, 74 dew point, and again, the temperature in Jacksonville was 75, so a very saturated air mass is in place, almost a tropical air mass, and that sometimes allows, if you get some rotation in there, it's very easy for it to translate down to the ground here into the region. Before we do our cut-in, we're doing another cut-in at 1:30 with an update. This is the storm outlook for the day today, and that's going to be for this morning's round here, but we'll have updates starting at about 2 a.m. or so. We'll receive these graphics update. We'll keep that forecast when it comes. Just be aware there's more chances for severe weather in the coming hours and days here, and that's why we've got this broad impacts here. This same graphic will carry on through overall with a big wide paintbrush through at least Monday morning early, we think here, and multiple rounds of storms. Each one of those will evaluate individually. Maybe with this one for some of our western counties, the 20 threat just a smidge higher. But overall, we think many of these storms will have gusty winds, maybe the chance for some hail. That flooding threat, though, I think a lot of basements will take some water on and will be a bit of an issue. So again, we're on our digital platforms right now. The warnings continue to come in here as we see. In fact, there is a warning actually up to the north for interest in Bureau County. So an unstable air mass does continue for much of the area. We're about a minute out from our TV cut-in, so what we'll see on digital is you'll see me stop talking in about 45 seconds. You'll see some graphics roll. We'll be on TV, but we'll be right back here, and we'll stay on digital during TV just to give folks another update with this line of storms coming on in here with the particular interest now for areas of I-55 and points to the west. And just so production knows in the back, I don't anticipate this cut-in taking more than 3 or 4 minutes. If there's not a tornado warning we'll do this cut in real quick for a few minutes, give more information, direct people to our digital platforms, and then come back. So just be aware of that. If there's a tornado warning, though, we will go for some wall-to-wall coverage. And so that's what we'll watch here. We're about 10 seconds out, so we're going to go ahead and fade the graphics. We'll be right back on digital, getting that TV cut in going here with more information here as the severe thunderstorm warning continues. The time now, of course, 1:29. Stand by. I'm WCIA 3 meteorologist Jacob Dickey with another update for you. The time now is 1:30 in the morning. We did get a new severe thunderstorm warning extended ahead of this line of storms. This will include parts of Menard and Sangamon counties, as well as the rest of Cass and Morgan counties. Our complex of storms now has moved into western Cass and Morgan counties. It's approaching the city of Jacksonville here. The overall trend is perhaps the northern segment, maybe not quite as impressive, but still very much capable of some 60-mile-per-hour winds. The more interesting feature to me now lies in southwestern Morgan County, south of Jacksonville to the east of US 67 along 267, Murrayville areas. This here shows more of a surge in the wind moving off to the east, and that very much will move towards Waverly, parts of southwestern Sangamon County, and that may be the area that has the best chance for at least some gusty straight-line winds of 60 to 65 miles an hour. There are no other warnings in the area right now. We'll do just a full reset here. Area-wide, there's some light showers north of Interstate 72. The main line we're watching at this point does lie to the west of Springfield, the west of I-55. And we'll be doing periodic cut-ins at this point for a little while longer. The reason for that is with that watch that was in place. Again, the tornado watch came out about 12 or so, and that includes those areas that's seeing this line move on in. There may be the chance for a tornado or an area of rotation to develop somewhere along that line. You'll notice Champaign, Mattoon, Charleston, Effingham, Danville, even Bloomington, not under a tornado watch at this point, and may not be tonight, but there are the potential for more rounds of severe weather later on Friday afternoon, this afternoon that is. But these line of storms all will have heavy rain and even some frequent lightning. Flash flood watch goes through at least Saturday morning for essentially all of the area, except for our counties lying along Interstate 70 and points to the south. We very well may see some heavy rainfall totals with this round in particular as it moves on through, and so we'll be watching all of that very closely. Again, our main concern right now is for this line of storms. You'll see all these severe thunderstorm warnings lining up. The newest severe thunderstorm warning for Sangamon, Menard, Cass, and Morgan County did not have what we call a tornado possible tag. That's a special wording used when they're watching rotation. Potentially the thought is now is that maybe there's not as much weak rotation aloft. We're still watching it, though. That's why there's a tornado watch in effect. There still is the tornado possible tag, though, for western Morgan, Cass, as well as parts of Jersey and Greene County, just to the west of our area. And again, we'll be watching that area of leading edge where maybe some more enhanced straight-line winds can come along and south of Interstate 72 very closely. We'll continue to also watch for those kinks in the line as it moves on in. Tonight, maybe the concern a little bit higher here. We'll bring that double box in real fast. The reason being is that we've got that tornado watch that came very late. A lot of folks may have already gone to bed, so we want to get as much information out as possible. But the other thing is some of these wind reports that have come from this particular line out to the west are quite impressive here. Hannibal, Missouri is experiencing some significant damage at this point from either straight-line winds or a tornado. That remains to be seen. The National Weather Service will evaluate if in Hannibal, Missouri, they need to go survey for that. But the reports are of trees down, some minor structural damage, and lots of power lines down in the southern part of Hannibal, Missouri. And that's from this line here as it moves off to the east, and something we'll be continuing to watch pretty closely here. The other thing to mention is that while we're watching for those tornadoes, the straight-line winds themselves can cause issues with power, and there are a number of outages being reported in Missouri and Illinois from this line. So we'll continue to do these cut-ins and keep you updated here for the foreseeable future. Again, I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey. Behind the scenes, we've got meteorologist Jack Gerfin and chief meteorologist Kevin Leidy. We'll continue this coverage for a little bit more here. We will be tossing back to our regularly scheduled programming. The plan will be to stay on digital live right now. You were there on Facebook, we're there on the app, we're there on Twitter as well. If you want to head there to join our coverage for this severe weather coming on in tonight, we'll be going back to our regularly scheduled programming, though, here in a second. We will cut in, if no earlier, if not needed, by 2 a.m. on TV. but we'll be continuing that wall-to-wall coverage on the app for you here as a courtesy with these line of storms that's moving on into the area. That's our update here. The time now is 1:34 in the morning. We'll see you back here at 2 a.m., if not earlier, depending on how things play out. With that, I'm Meteorologist Jacob Dickey. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. All right, we're back here on our digital platforms with a continuing update here. And we got some folks that are watching in the area, and I'm checking the chat and keeping an eye on it here in the area. This severe thunderstorm warning for Cass, Morgan, Menard, and Sangamon County will continue until 2:15 a.m. And that's for mainly a wind threat here for the extension of it. We kind of mentioned that, yeah, it looks maybe less impressive here, and that's why the earlier warning had that tornado possible tag stuck on it. The new warning doesn't have that, and that's a good sign here, but we still need to watch. Sometimes what can happen, and I'll bring the warning off, is when we get these surging bows right here, sometimes you can get a little kink in the line, and that may be a chance for some more spin. And then even in that surge, you can sometimes see a little bit. But we talk a lot, and we focus a lot on that. The concern primarily will be for the straight line winds at this point with a history of widespread wind damage in western Illinois. Now southwestern Morgan County here, that severe thunderstorm warning. Storms have crossed 67. They've crossed 267. They're moving into the southeastern and eastern quadrant of the county towards Waverly and off towards east areas east of Murrayville, east of Jacksonville. And that's going to be along 104 there, coming into Nortonville and more into the region. Just checking some more info that slipped on in here and want to make sure we're getting that. So that's what we'll watch here. What I will do is also pull on our base velocity. And what we look at in velocity is we're looking at wind in the atmosphere. Normal radar, the reds and the yellows and the oranges and the greens, looks at the intensity. How much particle is there? How much rain is there? This looks at how those particles are moving. Those radar sampled, the samples in the atmosphere. You'll see this line of blue right here, an indication of some pretty strong winds here, likely 60 mile an hour plus, that's now crossing east of Illinois 267 from Jacksonville and points to the south. And that's something that we'll be watching pretty closely here with the indication of some fairly strong straight line winds in that area. That carries on into parts of Jersey and Greene counties further down the line here. If you're familiar with that area, again, Springfield at the top right corner, this continues down. So we'll be watching that area near Murrayville pretty closely here for a little while longer in the region. Other things to watch, you'll notice up here in Beardstown, Arensville area, west of Virginia, seeing some of those greens that are in place, but there's not as much of a strong wind signature in those areas, and even the earlier signature of rotation not as evident. Still needs to be watched closely, but this velocity product allows us to really get a look at the region, and we can look at it in a couple of different ways as well here. I'm going to switch the color scheme to give you an idea. Let me see. We're going to switch that color scheme just to take another vantage point. You can see right here some of these light reds and greens near Arensville, an indication of at least a little area of spin, very light in nature. That's probably higher up in the atmosphere in southern Cass County. So we'll be watching that particular feature fairly closely here. The overall trend, I think, you can see really kind of holding steady, not really strengthening, not really decreasing in either ways. It's just enough to monitor here. But in particular, the second vantage point, I think, really shows some of the strong winds now coming into Nortonville, approaching 104 in southeastern Morgan County, Waverly, Pisgah, Humans, and the Nortonville area. Eventually, you take 104 to the east. That brings you into Auburn and Pawnee. And this line of storms may be heading that way with an area of winds perhaps of up to 50, 60 miles an hour. And as I sample some of those queries there, again, that severe thunderstorm warning does continue. The warning goes until 2:15. The velocity showing that there's some 63 mile an hour winds aloft at that point. And so that's something worth noting, is that we are at least seeing radar showing that particular bit here. We got a large viewing area. That's one of the issues with these storms, is a lot of times with these storms, folks are saying, oh, what's going on in my neck of the woods? What about me? In these types of events, if we don't talk about your area, that's good. We'll watch and keep you updated, but our concern primarily with this line of storms coming on in here, Sangamon, Morgan, Cass, and Menard counties is our primary concern. Eventually Macoupin, Montgomery, perhaps downstream Christian County. That tornado watch does end, though, beyond Christian County. So we aren't really talking a lot about Champaign. We really aren't talking a lot about Mattoon, Charleston, or Effingham, Danville. We aren't really spending any time in DeWitt County or Decatur here. This line of storms is where that focus is, and as it continues to move off to the east, maybe downstream, some of those other areas could be that by about 2:30 or so. I expect this line to be at or east of I-55. Perhaps by 3:30 it'd be US 51, Interstate 39. That goes from Bloomington to Decatur down towards Pana and Vandalia. And so we'll watch it here. You'll notice it's not a straight line. We're getting some of those kinks a little bit in here. And those little spots you got to watch real closely here, especially with some of the instability that is in the atmosphere and some of this little bit of wind shear that is present. So we're going to watch it and keep it updated here, again, primarily for areas west of I-55. Sometimes folks say, why do you cut at my TV? Why I don't care about that area. Well, in the TV world, we cover a large area. And that large area does include generally, we're talking Jacksonville, which is about an hour and a half to the west, and that's what we're doing our digital coverage now, to the west of Champaign, where our home base is. Even down by Effingham, that's about an hour or so south of Champaign. Storms are happening there. We have viewers in those areas, and we owe them the same coverage that we do you at home, and that's why we will continue to watch these fairly closely here. I am checking some of the behind-the-scenes data, and it looks like there is a bit of instability still in the atmosphere just east of I-55, so we will watch this closely. But the general thought is that maybe this line of storms, as it breaks apart a little bit from I-72 south into Macoupin, Montgomery counties, may have the better chance for some wind and or a tornado threat. I won't discount areas north of I-72, though, from Springfield up towards Petersburg and northward. If things can line up correctly with some of the wind shear that lies ahead of this, very well the potential for some spin may increase a little bit. I'm just watching some of these parameters ahead of this line, and it seems like Macoupin, Montgomery County, parts of southern Sangamon and Morgan County maybe at this point are the higher threat. That doesn't mean it'll stay that way, and it doesn't mean that we can't rule it out anywhere else. But that, in my mind, over the next hour or so will be something to watch. Just as I mentioned here, this is further to the north, where the atmosphere is apparently stable. Not looking that way right now based on radar. A lot of these rain and storms, you'll see there's a severe thunderstorm warning. This is for Bureau County, and I think it even includes parts of Putnam County. That's by LaSalle, Peru, west of Starved Rock State Park. They have the tornado possible tag on that storm. Not in our area, but it just gives you an idea that while maybe the normal parameters we look at in these types of events aren't all that impressive, we have to treat this as a tropical air mass. And being in Mississippi television for 3 years, these types of situations can get in a bit of trouble, in a bit of hurry here. You get a lot of deep tropical moisture, the air very saturated, a little bit of spin is enough to cause problems. That may very well be the case tonight. It has already been the case out to the west. In fact, I'll show you some of those storm reports real fast, show you a map in our area, and it should be able to show west. Again, you can see that one tornado report right there. That's from earlier. That's from 8 o'clock, that tornado we showed you the video of. You can see that on our website. We've got the video posted there. But a number of these reports have come on in, of course, of wind damage in Hannibal, Missouri and northeast Missouri, and even a couple of tornadoes from this round of storms, which is why we do have that tornado watch until 4 a.m. Do I expect the tornado watch to stay in effect for Cass, Morgan, Menard, Sangamon, and Macoupin counties until 4 a.m.? No, as this line of storms goes on through, this particular round of severe weather will wrap up. But more will be expected, especially I think Friday afternoon and Friday evening, especially if we can get this line of showers and storms out of here and allow for things to destabilize a little bit more. So that will be what we're watching for the foreseeable future. But at this point, watching the severe thunderstorm warning for Cass, Menard, Sangamon, and Morgan counties until 2:15 in the morning. We'll see if we don't see an extension of that into Macoupin and Montgomery County here in a little bit as that line approaches the eastern edge of the polygon. Of course, warnings nowadays not issued by county, they're issued by polygon for slivers of counties, parts of counties that are in effect. And that allows us to be a little more specific with those info. Back in the days, I grew up, I could recall being from Gibson City in Ford County, we'd have a tornado warning for Ford County. Well, the issue with that is that the warning might be up way north by Piper City or K-Bear or Kempton, and there's a lot of real estate not under that. Now we can say part of counties, and that's why you see these almost geographic or geometric shapes, I should say, covering different geographic areas. So this warning here is the one we're watching. The general trend is maybe a little bit weaker, and I like that. We continue to see that. I still think, though, some strong winds in southern Morgan, heading for southwestern Sangamon County. That will be the area to watch. The severe thunderstorm warning for the areas from Jacksonville to New Berlin, Loami, Curran, areas west of Springfield, Petersburg, Ashland, Virginia, goes until 2:15. We'll do that next cut in about 2 o'clock, but continue to stay here on digital, monitoring things behind the scenes. So we'll watch it and keep you updated. Still interested further to the south and west, west of Jerseyville, Whitehall, south of Jacksonville, where I think those more intense storms are. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the sky cam up real fast, and we're going to look in Springfield. If we want to bring this full, I did see a couple of flashes in the camera I've got on the wall back there, and this was an indication of some maybe a little bit of strengthening at some spots, or we look at lightning for that, I should say. Okay, did just get an update. I'll show you that in a second here. National Weather Service very much seeing the same thing that we are. And they have pulled back that severe thunderstorm warning, but still storms a little more to the west and southwest of Springfield. What I'll do now is I'm going to move that tower cam, the camera view, a little more to the south here. Our Flooring America iNet cameras, they do some great work. So we're looking a little more southwest. There you go. See a little flash of lightning there off in the distance. And it looks like the lightning count coming down just a little bit. So that would be good news here. You'll see in the latest warning that they have outlined, they're watching that same area of surge now west of Waverly. And that warning trimmed down, no longer in effect for Menard, no longer in effect for Cass County as that weakening trend continues. But that surge in the line now, southeast of Jacksonville, coming down 104, Waverly, into southwestern Sangamon County, areas to the west of Auburn and Chatham. It will include Curran, New Berlin, Loami is going to be in that. How about Talkington? Talkington, these storms, right? So this is where that main focus is at this point. And as I switch over my velocity here again, you can see those bright greens and reds there, more linear in nature. And that's almost got a little bit of a bowing or a backward C shape, indicating down 104 may see some strong winds coming into Waverly soon. And perhaps if it continues, we'll have to watch for the Auburn area. I'm going to give another look at it. Just change the color scheme here. And again, I don't see any rotation at this point. I'm not really seeing nearly as much up north here. It's starting to weaken even more, which is a great sign. I will say still from Virginia to Ashland to Petersburg, still some wind gusts of 30 to 40 would appear likely based on everything I'm looking at. The rain coming down, still some lightning and thunder. But perhaps if we're lucky and we keep the trend where it is and the storms aren't able to take advantage of some of that instability, maybe the severe threat could be over there. I won't rule it out, though. And I won't rule it out until the line passes. So Beardstown, I think you're done for the night for severe weather. Aaronsville, even Virginia, probably in about 5 minutes. Jacksonville, the line passed you now. Waverly, New Berlin, and areas west of Auburn seem to be right now, in my mind, the more probable area to see some of these severe weather threat and eventually off to these. That's why we're going to continue to do coverage in digital. We'll continue to watch these storms and keep you updated over the next little bit. The time now is 1:48. I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey, and we're watching these storms for a while, keeping you updated. Folks, wake up. Jeremy saying, I live east of Winchester. He appreciates it a lot. Folks will wake up. They hear the lightning and thunder. It's the middle of the night. If you're not aware, and all of a sudden you look at your phone and you've had a couple of alerts, the WCIA 3 weather app had a tornado watch and a severe thunderstorm warning for me, but I didn't wake up till now. I want more information. You're going to go searching for it, and that's why we jump on digital platforms and even do some TV cut-ins from time to time for this line of storms that's rolling on in. And so that's what we're going to continue to to watch here. Further down the line, the National Weather Service in St. Louis has not extended that severe thunderstorm warning from Greene and Jersey County. So fingers crossed that at this point we see this trend happening. I like to say the trend is our friend. And if that's the case, with the trend being our friend, maybe we can slip through tonight without any more problems. But until I'm confident of that, we'll stay on digital and we'll continue to do TV cut-ins. That next one coming at 2 o'clock. We'll also continue to monitor things even behind the scenes. Amelia Henderson, she'll be on her way in soon with more updates, of course, for the morning show with the next round of severe weather coming in tomorrow afternoon and evening. The heavy rain threat is a concern also, and so all of these things we'll be watching pretty closely here. So I'm just deciphering a lot of different information at once and making sure I'm seeing everything while we continue to bring you this coverage here. Of course, it's late at night, early in the morning, however you want to phrase it. Just one warning right now, but still have the watches that are in effect. That tornado watch goes until 4 a.m. That's 2 hours and 10 minutes from now. And it may be cut back for some of our counties soon. Once they clear on through, you can see those counties in yellow on where that is. No tornado watch for Champaign or Mattoon Charleston or Effingham, not even Decatur or Bloomington. But a sliver of those counties were added in because of the little bit of wind shear that's in place ahead and the instability, and especially given some of those storm reports that have been coming in. At one point there was a confirmed tornado in northeast Missouri, and there's been a bit of wind damage in Hannibal, Missouri from a severe storm strike. Whether that's a tornado or straight line winds, still a bit of a concern here. The other thing we continue to mention, I'm probably sounding like a broken record right now, is that flooding threat. I can't stress enough, if you've got a basement, you need to make sure that your sump pump is working. And that sump pump is important because we're going to see multiple rounds of heavy rain continuing through the area for at least Saturday morning. And the way the 7-day forecast looks beyond that. So here's what we want to show you again. The tornado watch, what does that mean? Pay attention for the next several hours. It does mean a tornado is possible in your area. It does not necessarily mean a tornado is happening now. It means look out, watch out, be aware. It's that first sign of caution before a warning is issued. We encourage you to keep an eye on the sky, download our WCIA 3 weather app, and it's a great reminder that you should make plans for what should happen if there's a tornado warning. Fingers crossed we can slip through without any tornado warnings, and at this point maybe that's going to be the case, but I can't guarantee it. If there's one issued, of course, what do? You know what to do. Your severe weather plan, you know where to head, where to get your information. You turn the TV on channel 3, turn it all the way up. You jump onto your phone, grab the digital app, the live stream, and watch those. They'll have you updated. Review those emergency plans. And, of course, check on friends and family in the area. Let them know that there's severe weather happening. Oftentimes, we encourage our viewers, hey, if you're in a tornado warning or you know someone that's in a tornado warning or even a tornado watch or any type of severe threat, talk to your friends. Say, hey, did you hear about the chance for severe weather? That's important as it allows people to stay updated and connected. We know people will have at least 2 ways to get weather alerts before they take action. One of them might be a phone app, but then they're going to check for another source of information. And if you're able to text them and be aware, you know, we're all in this together when it comes to severe weather, especially late at night. A lot of folks sleeping. We don't have any active tornado warnings now, but I've recently noted the lightning in Springfield started to pick up a little bit as those storms approaching from the west here. And we'll bring that full so we can watch it for a little bit before our cut-in coming up at 2 a.m. about 7 minutes from now. And as we watch this camera in Springfield, you're seeing some flashes out there as those storms. There you go. Another flash there in place. And I'd like to bring that camera full screen if we can. There we go. Seeing some wheels changing behind the scenes. That will be a nice shot here, I think, by the 2 o'clock cut-in. And so, again, the Springfield camera, a great vantage point. The Capitol building sits right here. We're looking out to the west. We're watching some of that lightning. And that's what we're going to continue watching. So again, in the back, if we can, I'd like to bring this camera full. There we go. Perfect. Watch that for a little bit so I can take care of a little housekeeping here behind the scenes and see some of that lightning coming on in. Again, we'll be doing another TV cut-in at about 6 minutes from now. And that one should be about 4 or 5 minutes or so, and we'll back out and keep you updated. So just processing some information, looking at some of those ingredients, continuing to watch here. Folks online are reporting that they're hearing some thunder in Springfield and in Rochester. I appreciate that. How long till Taylorville? I think this batch of storms is probably about an hour or so away from Taylorville, maybe a little sooner than that. So it's moving to the east. We'll continue to watch that general weakening trend and see if that doesn't pan out. Let me just decipher some more details here. I'm going to scope things out. Some of the lightning here. So we're still seeing that warning. I'm not seeing any indications of rotation at this point, really anywhere in the line. There's a little spot that maybe my eye will keep an open eye out, but that's not by Jerseyville. We'll be heading towards Macoupin County, down by Carlinville in the next hour. But that leading edge now coming into the Sangamon County line by Waverly likely has some strong winds in it, and definitely some frequent lightning. And that's why, again, folks in Waverly, I feel like they've been impacted by storms, Waverly, Verdon areas. They had that tornado report earlier this week. We pulled some hail out. I want to say that was, last weekend. We had quite a bit of heavy hail with the storm here. I don't see anything that makes me think there's any sort of significant hail. In fact, the threat for hail I really think is pretty low with this. There may be a little bit in there, but this is going to be more of a wind event and more of a wind event and lightning and thunder and heavy rain across the region, and likely going to deal with some more heavy rain, not only with this round, but with other rounds moving forward. Of course, the time now, 1:56 now. We're about 4 minutes away from cutting into the TV, and that's going to be just another 4 or 5 minute cut in. I'll show you future track here. It's picking up fairly well. In fact, here we go at 2 a.m. The timing may be just a little bit slow on this, maybe by an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually adjust this real fast. One of the things we can do with our data behind the scenes is we can edit things and make things look about right. About 2 a.m. or so, and that's about the right placement or so. So by 2 a.m. here, pretty darn close. Here we go looking forth, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. We may see some back building of these storms moving on through. I honestly think right now, based on what I'm seeing, maybe that future track not picking up on things quite as accurately as we would hope normally in these situations. That sometimes is an issue with tropical air masses, is it's hard for them to distinguish. I will say that notice by 5 o'clock, some of the storms popping west of 72. I think the general expectation is that we will deal with maybe a little more severe weather at times this afternoon and tonight, Friday afternoon, Friday night. And so we take each round of storms as they come. This one, though, with that tornado watch that came out in the 11 o'clock hour, did have our awareness heightened a little bit more with it, especially with some of those reports of damage that we had earlier. And that's what we'll continue to watch here. So time now 1:57. We're about 2.5 minutes away from our TV cut-in. And I'm just going to get a couple of things lined up behind the scenes here. If you've got a report in the chat, you have some information for us, we do appreciate that. We had a couple of reports of thunder in Rochester and other areas. The other thing to note is that these storms have had lots of heavy rain. And so that's going to be a given, but perhaps that wind threat picking up a little bit for parts of the South Springfield area here shortly. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in about 2 minutes or so from now. Okay, 2 minutes out. Carolyn just let me know. Of course, got to give a hats off to our folks in the back for helping out with this coverage here, especially given what we saw and what was happening. We called some folks in kind of in our nighttime break between the evening shift and the morning show shift. And there's every time you see us on screen, there's easily 2-3 plus people for every person on TV behind the scenes working. So big hats off to Carolyn and Pete working behind the scenes, Lauren as well helping in the newsroom, keeping an eye on things here for our coverage. So did see a question, you have TV cut-ins this late? Yeah, at nighttime we're able to do that a little bit more based on programming. Folks wake up, they'll turn on the TV. They want to see what's going on, if there's any severe weather and with these alerts. And so we'll just do some bouncing in and out at nighttime. We've done nighttime TV cut-ins and nighttime wall-to-wall coverage before with storms moving on through. The digital side is where we primarily focus that effort. Kevin was on about 8 o'clock as that tornado touched down near Verdon, though, at the 8 o'clock hour. And just for production's sake, I don't anticipate showing that during this cut-in, so we won't worry about that. I think this is just going to be a radar update, but we will show that earlier tornado on our digital afterwards, again, for this little 5-minute tidbit coming on in. So again, the time now is 1:59. We're about 40 seconds out from our TV cut-in. I'm going to double check some last little info and make sure everything's lined up. For a couple of minutes, we'll talk about the weather and keep people informed and have those updates. And then we'll be right back here on digital, as well as this line of storms moves on in with the tornado watch that is in effect for the area. All right, we'll go ahead and stand by here. We're about 15 seconds out. So if you're on digital, you'll see the screen go black. You'll see a graphic roll, and you'll hear me talking like I'm on TV. We'll continue to talk to you on digital, and we'll be right back after that. Stand by. I'm WCIA 3 Meteorologist Jacob Dickey. The time now is 2 a.m. We're going to have another quick cut-in for severe weather. Some storms are now rolling closer to the Springfield metro with some damaging wind potential with them. We're up late tonight watching this. The main concern was with even the chance for a couple of tornadoes, given how we had a tornado watch issued until 4 a.m. You can see that now on the bottom of your screen right here, that tornado watch, the information in that scrolling there, and will continue to do so for the next several hours. Let's talk a little more about our current warning that we have in place here. And this warning includes Morgan and Sangamon County. We have dropped Menard and Cass County for the warning. The warning itself does go until 2:15 a.m. Our storm now is moving into southwestern Sangamon County near Waverly, approaching Auburn, and Highway 4 moving down 104 here. This little line right here, bowing out a bit from Interstate 72 up by Loami and New Berlin down towards Waverly to the east there. As it moves on east, there's been some indication of some strong winds here. It doesn't look all that impressive on TV on the Storm Tracker Doppler, but that curve, that backward C, is an indication that at least some winds are gusting out. I'll show you another vantage point here to give you an idea of some of those winds, and we can see on our velocity product where we're looking at reds and greens. This velocity and ability to show how our air particles are moving in the storm. And with that, you can see some of those brighter greens now down 104 west of Auburn, moving into the east. Likely some gusty winds, even if they're not severe winds of 60 mile an hour, still at least 40 to perhaps 50 mile an hour gusts would be anticipated for the Highway 4 corridor in the next 5 to 15 minutes, including the city of Springfield. And that will continue to move off to the east. Into eastern Sangamon County, we'll be watching it closely. I will mention here in parts of Macoupin and Montgomery counties, we're watching that line as well. There's been some indication of brief spin, but that hasn't really been overly impressive for a while. But you notice this line here, a bit more hefty of a look with this backwards angled motion and whatnot. So some of those winds are trying to surge out. We'll keep an eye on it downstream in northern Macoupin and Montgomery counties, and eventually towards Taylorville. We'll watch for Christian County too. We're keeping all of our friends in the area close eye on. This is that tornado watch again with that information at the bottom of your screen. Cass, Menard, Morgan, Sangamon, Christian, Montgomery, and Macoupin County. I-57 corridor right now, no severe weather for the area, and we may get through there for the night. They did cut back some of those counties in western Illinois, so perhaps by 2:30 or so, we'll be able to cut the Cass, Morgan counties and call them all clear as that line is moving off to the east. What I want to do is let's pull up that double box real quick here, and we'll show you the Skycam in Springfield right now. That is on the left side of your screen right here, and that is looking off to the west and the southwest. We have been seeing quite a bit of lightning, and some viewers have reported some thunder in that area. Thankfully, so far, we've not had much in the way of significant reports of damage in that area. In fact, really, maybe south of Springfield towards Chatham, Auburn, Pawnee, towards Divernon, even down towards Glenarm, that may have a better chance for some of these strong winds here. That leading edge now approaching Highway 4, moving off to the east at about 50 miles an hour. The general trend, though, has been downward in intensity, and that's good news. That's a trend we like. We've been watching it for the next hour, and so it may very well be that we do not have a new warning issued after this, and if that's the case, I think this will be our last TV cut-in. But if there is a new warning, then we'll cut back in TV, and we'll, of course, stay on our digital platforms where we've been streaming. The warning for Sangamon and Morgan County expires at 2:15. That's in less than about 10 minutes or so from now. Actually, there we go. Let's go ahead and bring my graphics full real quick here. The National Weather Service did just cancel that severe thunderstorm warning for Morgan and Sangamon County. That's good news here. But the tornado watch still is in effect. We will still have to watch these storms closely here for the next couple of hours. But perhaps they're not taking advantage of the instability and wind shear to be strong to severe much further east. And if that trend continues, this will be our last TV cut-in, and we may even wrap up the digital platform coverage here before all is said and done. If you want, join us on our digital platforms. We'll be there for another 10-15 minutes at least watching these storms, just making sure that the trend continues in that favorable direction. And if not, then there's no more TV cut-ins needed. The next update for you will come from Amelia Henderson in the morning show starting at 5 a.m. She'll be watching things all morning long. More severe weather does appear likely Friday afternoon and evening across parts of the region once we get this particular round. And I'll be remiss to mention, while we do have that tornado watch, flash flood watch for almost all of central Illinois goes through at least Saturday morning. The heavy rain potential does continue, not only with this round, but with further rounds. And you can check more on the forecast details on WCIA.com, on the WCIA 3 weather app. Join us on our digital platforms, Facebook, Twitter, even YouTube, and also on the WCIA 3 news and weather apps for more live digital coverage for at least the next 10 minutes or so as this batch of storms continues to move off to the east. Hopefully, though, based on what we're seeing the last couple of hours here, continuing with a bit of a weakening trend. And if that's the case, then maybe we can escape through most areas without seeing many problems. But we'll watch it closely for our friends that are in that tornado watch until 4 a.m. I'm WCIA 3 meteorologist Jacob Dickey. Join us over on digital. We'll be there for a little while longer. In the meantime, back to your regularly scheduled programming. Okay, cool. We're back on digital here. The trend is our friend, and at this point, I think the radar really actually is showing something quite impressive here. You can see the spin in the atmosphere right here in northwest Illinois, southeastern Iowa. That's the MCV. The issue with this is the MCV is a bit of a concern. These often can spin up some problems. They act as almost miniature low-pressure systems. They can generate their own wind shear, and they often don't need a lot of instability to cause problems. And earlier tonight, I should say, that really was causing some issues. Issues down in northeast Missouri and western Illinois. A number of wind damage reports, even a couple of tornadoes reported out there. Seems like perhaps Hannibal, Missouri has reported some of the more extensive damage to trees and power lines, and even some structural damage in some spots in northeast Missouri. But really, it looks like that line is tapering down a bit, and I like seeing that. I think that's good news here. We didn't know what was going to happen. These sometimes can, with their own wind shear and just a little instability can really set things off. So with that general weakening trend, while there are no active warnings now, I'd like to suggest that at least with this line from Springfield towards Auburn, down towards Carlinville, down towards Bunker Hill, as it moves to the east here, maybe southern Christian County, might have the chance to see some 40, 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts. The severe threat may be continuing to diminish. Can we rule it out at this point? No. We're going to keep that window of opportunity at least for another couple of hours until we find out more about this tornado watch. I'm thinking that probably by 2:30, really I want to say now, we can call all clear for Cass and Morgan County, even Menard County, probably even Fulton counties to the north. Mason, Fulton County, McDonough County, with this area of severe threat here. Really, I think now we're just going to watch Macoupin, Montgomery, Christian, and Sangamon counties for the foreseeable future overnight tonight. A lot of lightning, a lot of thunder with this storm as it moves on in. But the severe threat may continue to wane. And if that's the case, that's good news for us here as we hopefully can wind things down. Let's go ahead and bring the screen full real fast. And what I want to do is I'm going to keep this Springfield Tower cam on for a little while, and then I'm going to turn it. I want to look a little more in a south direction. The line of storms is seeming to accelerate a little bit. When that happens, sometimes they can almost outrun themselves. And you'll see some wind surge out ahead of them, the wind really bouncing that camera down and around a bit here. Now we're looking a little more of a south-southwest direction. Ooh, there you go. Seeing some of that lightning here. And more southwest in nature. This will be looking off to the southwest towards the southwest part of Springfield, Jerome, towards Curran off in the distance there. And so we're going to watch it. And just watch this batch of storms for a little while longer before maybe we sign off on digital coverage. And that would primarily be just to cover our tails here at this point. So some gusts of 40 to 45 mile an hour certainly on the table. Lightning and thunder is there, and a lot of heavy rain. These storms have been prolific rain producers as they've rolled on through. If you get one of those storms, rainfall rates could very well be 1 to 2 inches an hour. That doesn't mean you're going to get 1 and 2 inches. It just means heavy rain, and that primarily is a concern because with this line of storms, they're moving pretty quick, but we've got more coming as we look over the next 48 hours beyond. With the potential for that. So that's what we expect here, and that's what we'll continue to monitor for the foreseeable future beyond this round. So again, kind of panning around. You can see some of that lightning that's flashed here. Now we're looking a little more west in nature. There'll be some lightning and some thunder and some rumbles and whatnot, but the severe threat may be waning, and that's good news for a while here. But still, I will say some gusts of 40 mile an hour plus are expected as that line of storm pushes on in, and now approaching the west side of Springfield, Curran, Bradfordton, Riddle Hill, Loami, New Berlin, getting some of that Auburn, Chatham, some of those areas to the south now along I-55 really, I think, have a better chance of Glenarm, Chatham, Auburn now, that line of storm. And we're going to watch it pretty closely here just to make sure that we're not having any other issues with that. So that being said, though, just watch here. I'm a little interested in a little spot northeast of Auburn. At this point, there's nothing that concerns me, but we'll keep an eye on it. And I'm going to turn this camera more to the south because I'm going to see if we can't peek down I-55 and to the south of town and get a view. Of course, there's a tower that does sit in the way. This camera will give us at least a fairly decent vantage point at this point. Seeing some of that rain already coming into downtown, but really a lot of Springfield missing out on this initial round here. It's more south of town, south of 72 down 55, but still some rain showers are moving on into the area, and that's something we'll watch. So it looks like at this point, just analyzing this a little bit more here and making sure. Okay, so we're looking at radar right now. I'm going to pull up the radar real fast and show you what I'm looking at here. These little bit of kinks. Sometimes we got to watch in the line. It looks like we're getting another one. There may not be enough instability to allow it to come to the ground. A little spot right there has my interest. It doesn't look all that impressive on radar. When I switch over to the velocity product here, you'll see that there's almost a little bit of a kink there. Some of those blues and greens. And that may be an area of wind shear that just has to be watched. There's nothing imminent at this point based on what I'm seeing. Definitely some strong winds coming into Glenarm, north of Divernon here. Here's Auburn, Highway 4. Here's 104. Pawnee to the east takes you towards Kincaid and Taylorville. This right here, 55 north, takes you into Springfield. On the south side, you got Glenarm here. The lake sits right here. Springfield at the top of the screen. Highway 4, you go into the west side, and you take the loop around the west and north side of Springfield. And maybe that little spot sitting there east of Auburn, heading towards Glenarm. We'll get another radar update or two just to make sure. And if you kind of, let me draw something here to kind of show you. With these winds, green going towards, there's a lot of fast winds right here and then some slower winds right there. And, a little suspicious area at this point. Is it imminent? No. But these sometimes can be the first signs. And so we're going to watch it closely and keep our eyes on it here. And then the next radar update should be coming in here within the next minute or two. And that's going to show us more of what to expect. But I'll even take a look at it in storm relative velocity. And you can kind of see, again, that green area, green going towards, there's some wind energy that's present here. At least would be some 40, 50 mile an hour winds, if not a little higher as it moves on in. Tornado likely? No, I don't think so at this point, but it's worth watching. The other issue is that, you know, with the tornado watching, we just need to kind of watch these features closely. I got no warnings at this point. If that stays that way, I think by about 2:20, pending radar, we may call it a night on digital and just watch for behind the scenes and do periodic updates. I kind of monitor things for the general trend and then let folks get out of here by 3. So that may be what we continue to watch. Looks like we're getting that other radar update coming in here. But the other thing that we need to watch is with this is, yeah, I'm watching a little suspicious area, is that if we look at the actual, the reflectivity products, which is what you're used to, it kind of sits at the end of this line. Sometimes you can get a little bit of spin in there, maybe at the end. Not very impressive, but we didn't have a very impressive signature that put it down at 8 o'clock. And I'm not saying it's imminent. I don't think anyone needs to do anything, but you know, when we do these digital coverage behind the scenes, you get a little more behind the scenes look, what we're watching. We could talk about more of what we're monitoring. And so that's maybe the spot that I'm going to focus on for a little while longer. But as I check down the line, I don't really see anything else that's too concerning. If anything, there's likely some gusty winds now crossing I-55 to the south of Springfield. And, you know, 40 to 50 mile an hour winds can't be ruled out from that. Let's see what that update was. Sometimes you hear that big old alert. And, you know, honestly, at this point, the National Weather Service is watching the same thing we are. Because look what they just did. They have canceled the tornado watch for all those counties we mentioned. It's just Sangamon and Christian County. And so they're watching a little tail end of the line here. And you're going to see some more counties update. We just got 5 counties left on this watch until 4 a.m. Macoupin, Montgomery, Sangamon, Christian, Bond County. Bond County sits out of our area. That's going to be Greenville, if you're familiar down there in Greenville Community College. Springfield, Taylorville, Litchfield, Nokomis still has that tornado watch until 4. So just a sliver of counties left, mainly for this little segment. I mean, you talk about, let me grab this county alerts here. You talk about the rest of that watch to the south. I mean, they just canceled it. And so the thought is that maybe we're going to get through here relatively unscathed. It's this little segment right here that we're just going to keep our eyes on as it moves off to the east. I'll show you the last hour, and we'll get an idea of how fast it's moving, and then we'll do a storm track on it. You know, we'll keep an eye on it for Macoupin, Montgomery, southeastern Sangamon, Christian County, Bond County sits there. And that's going to be for another 2 hours, but maybe not even that long. They may cancel that early by the time these storms move on through. All right, let's go ahead and draw a line here. And we're going to show you who's in, who's out for this particular line of storms here. No alerts at this point. But as it moves off to the east, we're moving it at about 45 mile an hour or so, if I've got my 40 mile an hour or so. Rochester, 220, so about 5 minutes or so. Litchfield, 238. Taylorville, 245. Nokomis, 256. Pana, 3 o'clock. Ooh, let's pull the camera up real quick. Let me show you the sky cameras. That storm batch now coming into Springfield. So, you know, you see some of those times where I just saw a flash of lightning. Fairly impressive cloud structure here. Looks like we are getting some wind there, and some wind now. And if we get a flash of lightning, we'll get a look here at that base of the storm. No warning for Springfield, but you're probably hearing some wind, and you're probably getting some thunder and lightning. Hoping we get some folks saying the winds are high. Horizontal rain in Auburn. Winds are high. If you've wind picking up, Eric saying that as well. Eric and Cheryl letting us know. Yeah, there's going to be some wind gusts of 40 to 50, and that may cause some issues. Look at all that. Really spooky looking clouds there. Lightning flash rolled on in. And now we're looking more to the west here. I'm going to turn it back to the left. I want to look more to the south. We're likely to get, what's happened is we've gotten a lot of rain and a lot of rain accumulated aloft, suspended in the air. As these storms collapse, they're likely pushing out some wind with them, and that's some of these wind gusts that we've got here. And we continue to watch even south of town, south of Springfield, down I-55 and Auburn area, and over towards Pawnee next in line for that leading edge here. So there will be some wind gusts in there. The wind will be a bit higher. Is it overly concerning at this point? We don't have a warning, and so I can't say it is. But we do have that tornado watching for a couple of more hours, and so that's what we're going to continue to watch here and keep you updated on. I really think at this point, we're watching mainly gusty winds with this line of storms that's pushed off. Really, what's interesting about this is radar is not showing a whole lot in Springfield right now. Very light returns. But what happened is I go back, those storms have collapsed and they're really pushing out some stronger winds. So we're seeing some of those gusty winds in Springfield. I'll be interested to see what the latest observation is from the airport, Capitol Airport on the north side of town. And as I pull that up, it looks like I don't have a wind report from there right now. And so we're going to watch that closely. Let me get another graphic up here. Oh, that camera really shaking a bit in Springfield now. Bouncing around, and let's see, the latest update from Springfield is I don't have a wind report. Wind report not available. So that's why we're not seeing a report from there. I want to see if Jacksonville, let me check Jacksonville, see if they had any wind reports. They probably, let's see, the strongest gusts they had came in, from what I can see, 20 to 30 mile an hour. So that's a good sign here. But again, we did get some fairly substantial wind damage reports in northeast Missouri. Hannibal, Missouri, of course, seeing some significant wind damage, lots of trees and power lines down in that town. Cleanup efforts underway there. No reports of any other substantial issues, but we are going to monitor things and keep an eye on it for the foreseeable future. All right, again, we're looking at Springfield at our camera right now. The time now is 2:20 in the morning, and we're watching this coverage here as this batch of storms rolling on through. Really, it looks, if we look in Springfield right now, you can see that camera bouncing around. But radar doesn't show really much in the way of much here. Storm tracker Doppler looks relatively dry. What happened was as storms were up here to the west, we had a lot of upward motion, a lot of mass accumulated aloft. That has to come down. What goes up has to come down. And gravity pulled it down to the surface. Once it hits the ground, it has to push out. It's going to push out ahead of the storm. So yes, still getting some gusts of wind in those areas, some breezy winds in the region. But the main rain and storms do appear now to be down from south of Rochester, now moving into Pawnee, Girard, Millwood, Carlinville, down into parts of Macoupin County here. And even still, the general trend is weakening for that. And so at this point, really, we're just babysitting and monitoring to make sure we don't get something else to happen, because there is some instability in the atmosphere, and there is some wind shear. With these tropical events, they're not all that common in central Illinois. You just have to watch things very closely. We have been joking between Kevin, Jack, and I on our group message and whatnot, saying, hey, these are babysitting type of events. Of course, Kevin now doing a little bit different of babysitting since he's now a dad. But for us here, the radar has to be babysat and watched closely in these instances. And for a little while there, it looked like we were going to have a bit more of an event, but the instability maybe just not lining up with these storms, and the storms not really taking advantage of some of that aloft with all of the tropical moisture in place. Again, the instability not from heating of the day, but from more of a saturated atmosphere, and that allows for some of that wind shear. So good news if that's the case, and we like that. But of course, folks are watching and keeping an eye on it. They wake up, they hear the wind, and that's why we do this digital coverage here. But I suspect that in about 8 minutes, we may wrap things up and just do another update then at 3 o'clock and give a little breather before all is said and done here, and kind of talk behind the scenes. So I still think that there's some wind now south and west of Carlinville, but still it looks like that leading edge now pushing into northwestern Christian County, Edinburgh, Kincaid, Pawnee, areas south and east of Rochester. That's going to be on Highway 29 towards Taylorville, south and east of Springfield. You take the exit there on 72. On 55, 72, and slide to the south and east towards Rochester, continue on that way. There'll be some gusty winds of 30 to 40 miles an hour. And these storms may very well be loud and noisy. But if we continue to see this downward trend, then we're probably going to get out of here without much more of a concern. So we're going to watch it and keep you updated. I am waiting on one last update from the National Weather Service here, and they should have an update for me in a couple of minutes to see if we're all on the same page here. But it seems like what we'll do then is we're going to transition behind the scenes and start forecasting the next round of severe weather. It's expected to come in the afternoon and evening, and watch it closely and keep an eye on it. Of course, this batch of storms worth watching, worth monitoring here. That tornado watch trend back still a couple of our counties. Sangamon, Christian, Montgomery, Macoupin County. You can see that. You'll see the crawl on TV with that. That's one way we keep you updated is the crawl will go and it will be there and it'll update you on TV. It doesn't mean we're on TV, but at least as a source of information, and if needed, we do cut-ins and whatnot. So the trend overall, I like what I'm seeing, and it looks like the National Weather Service does also. So in about a couple of minutes then, we're going to take a breather on our digital platforms, assuming there's nothing new, and we'll start to shift gears and hopefully be done for the night. I will expect, though, there will still be some rain and storms moving on into areas. We really haven't given a lot of love here, but we got some showers and storms popping up in north and east of Rantoul, Potomac, not severe. And, we've still got some gusty winds here. In fact, Vicky's saying winds picked up significantly on the north side of Springfield. I would expect that here. A lot of times when you see storms collapse like they are, the radar really won't look all that impressive. But there's a lot of wind that came down here as that storm basically evaporated. That wind has to go somewhere. It blows out ahead of those storms. So there still will be some winds, but nothing that's severe in nature. And with that being the case, I'm just going to check those power outage numbers. Calhoun County does have 2,000 customers out of power, and that is out of our area, but it's both Ameren and another customer group. And so that's maybe a sign of some of those wind damage and from earlier tonight carrying on and over from Missouri. In fact, in Missouri right now, in northeast Missouri, a number of outages in Rawls County, Marion County, Lewis County, Pike County, Lincoln County, even Grundy County, a lot of outages in Missouri, if you're familiar with that area. So far, it seems like the wind's not strong enough to cause too many concerns, but still something we got to monitor. Really, I think at this point our concern is going to flip over more towards the flooding threat through the rest of the night. So we're going to watch that and keep an update on it closely here and monitor things. All right, one last update here. I'm going to do a quick forecast update, and then we'll wrap this up for folks in the back. And again, I appreciate Carolyn, Pete coming in and helping us out here with this bit of a splash event coming on in, and we thought it'd be a case, and then it ended up happening, and it was in our back of our minds, and then it turned to the forefront of our minds here. Watching this batch of storms, really this narrow little batch here between Springfield and St. Louis via the Amtrak line actually goes down there. If you've ever taken the Amtrak from Springfield, it goes through Carlinville and carries you into St. Louis. It will cross I-55, has already done so in Sangamon County. It's now at the Sangamon-Montgomery County line, north of Farmersville, where we are seeing some of the storms cross here, continuing to see that weakening trend, and that's good here. That may mean we finish. That there still will be some gusty winds. There will still be a lot of lightning and some heavy rain with this. Taylorville probably going to approach you by 3 o'clock, if not a little earlier, moving off to the east pretty quickly. But I don't expect it to get too much further of at least concerns here. We've dealt with storms before, and we'll deal with them again. But this little bit of a segment here is something we're watching, given a little bit of wind shear in the atmosphere and the earlier tornado report, which happened, if you want to see the tornado video from Verdon of a confirmed tornado at about 8 p.m. last night, that is available on our website. You can also check the social media channels for that. But we just got this little area, this little sliver that we're watching. We're here for our friends in Sangamon, Christian, Montgomery, and in Mahoupin counties. The bigger threat area-wide at this point does appear to be flash flooding, though, through at least Saturday morning for most all of central Illinois and west Indiana. Likely to see 3 to 6 inches of rain additionally with locally higher amounts. And we'll get a couple of inches in some spots tonight with these rain and storms that are moving on through. After this initial line moves on through, there still is some stratiform rain with some embedded thunder. In my mind, that is more of good sleeping weather than anything here. And I'll take the regional view for you real fast. Let me just pull up the regional radar real fast, and we'll show you that. And I'll show you the rain that's coming in behind it here. So this is that regional view of the rain and storms. This initial line, you can see how strong it looked out to the west here. Thankfully, it's kind of weakened and broken apart. If this were to come in during the afternoon, I'd be even a bit more concerned. But notice here this backwards tail of the storms here. There's a lot more rain to come here as this batch moves on in, and a lot of stratiform rain. So that I say sleeping weather, it's that occasional rumbling of thunder, some decent rainfall rates as that batch moves on through. And so that's going to be something that we watch here pretty closely. Those areas of yellow, they extend through north central Missouri with that line here down to the south. And so that may bring some more heavy rain here for the next couple of hours into the morning hours. The thought is, as this continues its eastward progression, is that this batch of storms may very well move out and give us another chance for some severe weather by Friday afternoon into Friday night. So we'll be doing a little forecasting behind the scenes on that. This is our general overall impacts for the area here. Flooding threat is the highest. We can't rule out tornadoes, but certainly some wind and hail possible with these multiple rounds of storms coming on through. Each threat will take as its own, but at this point use this broad brush, a generic brush, to help understand that there will be at least a threat for severe weather with all of these rounds into the weekend here. And of course, it's a good reminder to make sure you have ways to get severe weather alerts. Watching TV, the crawl goes whenever there's a watch or warning. We do cut-ins there. The app, you'll get alerts in the app for severe weather, forecast updates, and more. You can also stream coverage there. A radio, if you're in your car driving, you have the radio on. Those weather alerts will make the sound on those. Your NOAA weather radio, this right here, I'm waiting for the day that I can have this go off on live TV for an alert in Champaign County. It will happen at some point, hopefully not soon, and hopefully it's more for flooding than anything. But those alerts give you alerts for flooding, severe weather, tornadoes, and then, of course, your cell phones. The app on your phone, also the wireless emergency alerts, particularly for more significant events like tornadoes or significant flash flooding is what those are reserved for, and as well as significant severe thunderstorm warnings. Outdoor warning sirens, I bet at this point, if you're at home and you've got rain and storms in the area, if those went off, you wouldn't hear them. Unless you live close by here, those are not meant to be heard indoors, and often they can be muffled by rain and wind, and even more if you're inside, these are meant to be heard outside, so don't count on those. Also, Facebook and Twitter, yes, we go live on our digital platforms, and yes, we do post information there. It still is a source for forecasts, but when it comes down to severe weather information, you need information constantly. That's not really the best thing to do here for those sources. And so we encourage you to have at least 2 ways to get information as those storms are rolling on. In, and there's a threat for severe weather. Here's a look in Springfield here. I'll take one last look at this before we wrap things up here. Again, thanks for joining us for our coverage here. I will be staying behind the scenes. We're going to go talk to our production folks that came in to help out and just make sure we didn't get things out of hand here. And then we may do another digital update 3 or 3:30 if needed. If not, the next update will come at 5 a.m. on the morning show with Amelia Henderson. Do expect rain and storms through the night. Some heavy rain, some gusty winds, still possibility, but it seems like at this point the threat for severe weather is about as low as it can get without me saying zero. I won't rule it out, but I don't really think we're going to have many more problems. Maybe our next problem for wind or hail or tornadoes will come this afternoon into tonight, so be sure you stay weather aware. I'm WCIA 3 meteorologist Jacob Dickey. Thank you so much for joining us for our digital coverage on this Friday morning. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here and call it a night. Join Amelia for the latest on the morning show.